Welcome to Platform Analytics Academy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. My name is Thomas Davis, and I'll be the host today. I'm going to go through some real quick logistical information as usual, and then we will get directly into the content that we have for you today. So with that, let's see, there we go. So as usual, these are always for you. We try to bring as many fresh ideas and better understanding and practical guidance sessions that we can to you. It is going to be recorded. It is recording, actually, I'm sorry. It'll be out on the community event later on this afternoon. It'll also be out on YouTube on our channels. And we will have Q&A. So please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A section of the Zoom call if you can. And we do have other panelists on as well, and we'll answer those questions as we can. If questions can be answered during the actual presentation that are relevant to wherever we're at in that, I will stop the presenter and ask those questions. You're more than welcome to ask other questions that are unrelated to the content that we're covering today. If that question needs to be answered live, it will come after any questions that are related to the content that we have here. But if that question can be answered via a panelist, then we'll do that while the actual presentation is happening as well. So today we're going to talk about ACL assessments for reports. This is a new feature, and Marta's going to actually present that. And then she also has Hatem with her as well. And he'll just be a panelist, but he'll be here for her support along with myself. We also have Dan Kane and Tara Fisher and also Josh Cooper. And I think that they're making their way in now, but we have plenty of panelists outside even of the presenter. So we should be able to answer plenty of questions and, get to everything that we have. So with that, like I said, we're going to talk about ACL assessment. So Marta, if you are ready, you're more than welcome to take sharing and go ahead and get started.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. So let me share my screen. So indeed, today we're going to talk about this ACL assessment for reports. It's a store application that we have released last year. It does support from Quebec onwards. Of course, there are different versions now available on the store and also different targeted releases that they are associated with. But let's talk a little bit more about what the ACLs are and why we have specific ACLs for reports. I believe all of you are comfortable what access controls are and what we have them as a layer of control on the tables and the data. We have added throughout the years actually what we call the report view ACLs or RVA that actually limits the users to see sensitive data, but when the actual reports are see a pie or a bar chart, then we needed an extra level of ACLs to control which users and which roles could see that data. And throughout the years, the ServiceNow and all the application business unit have created more tables, and they've also created the report view ACLs associated to those tables. What happened is that if you were getting a net new instance from New York patch 10 onwards, most of these report view ACLs, also throughout Paris, Rome, and San Diego, they were enabled by default. But if instead you are customers that has been with ServiceNow for longer, you might have installed all this application, but then the report view ACLs are actually currently set to false. So we have started this program to actually make sure that the report view ACLs were gonna get enabled in all our the customer instances so that you have better security regarding the reports data that you're gonna share with your internal and external users. That means that also as a behavior, the behavior might change. Enabling the report view ACLs means that you might block the access to view the data to some of the users. And that's why we have released the store application. The store application allows you to scan and then remediate all the affected reports or the affected reports that you still consider that are valuable for your instances and for your users. So the example is you see aggregated report data and your report is shared. If it's summarized, for example, sensitive financial data, we actually want to have not only table level data, ACLs, but also the report view ACLs. So we are making sure that that report doesn't show and doesn't display results of that aggregated data to users that should not have access to. So what does the ACLs assessment for reports does? First of all, you need to be admin with the security admin role. So you have to have elevated role privilege. And once you enable the store application, you're gonna actually have a list of all the report view ACLs that we deliver out of the box that you currently have installed. And we are gonna do the check only based on those report view ACLs. We constantly have a list of all these out of the box report view ACLs that we as ServiceNow have delivered. But it also could be that you have added more throughout the years. The ones that you have customized or the ones that you have created by yourself separately, those will not be tracked into the scan. But then the security admins, after the scan has been done, they will be able to do some remediations. So it could be that you're gonna need to change the sharing permission on the reports, maybe because you discovered that that report should not be shared that widely. You might need to create a new group and add the affected users with the new appropriate roles to that group, or maybe add users to an existing group, or change the report view ACLs to allow more roles to access the data. And those are the 4 types of remediation that we suggest. So first thing first is to run the assessment. There is a dashboard that I will show you later that allows you to run the assessment scan. So by default, we actually run based on the report execution table. That means that only the reports that have been viewed, and by default is the 365 days, will be considered in the scan. And then from that point on, we'll consider all the users that have viewed those, that are affected by those reports. If you want to increase the number of days, that's also possible via the property. As well as you can decide also to run it without considering the report execution, and then it will run for all the reports. And that's the part below, is like you can run the assessment on a particular set of reports or users. So for example, I only first want to fix everything that is connected to my financial data or my sales data, and then go later on going through my incident or like task tables, so that you could do it like in bulks. So that's what the first property uses for. The second one, if instead you want to consider some specific users first, based on like maybe you want to have your C-suite levels or like your management level, making sure that for them all the reports are fixed, and then subsequently do all the other users. And the last property is instead, if you instead of using, you don't want to use the report execution table to be considered, and you actually want to use the entire or sys report table. And after running the assessment, you're going to be able to see the scan results. So we have step 2 that is actually in the dashboard that showcase all the impacted reports, as well as we have a menu item where you can find the full list. And from the list, you can go into each of the reports and have more information about which are the current sharing permission on the reports, but which are also the ACLs on the table and column level that are impacting the users. So you will see a button that says show affected users, and that will give you the information of like initially the top 5 affected users, but that's also a property that can be increased. And once you have your list of affected users, then you will need to, and affected reports, so you will need to do the remediation. So it's to, as said before, change the sharing permissions, create a new group and add those users to the group, and add the users to an existing group or change the report view ACLs. So the remediation all need to be taken care of manually by the security admin. We don't have any automated workflow. We have a flow and action from the list to assign user to an existing group, and then subsequently they will get also the roles that are part of that group. It's important to notice that this like a report view, multiple reports could be blocked by the same report view ACL. So maybe changing one report view ACL, adding additional roles will actually end up fixing the multiple reports if they are all the users are then added to the correct groups and have the appropriate roles. And this is the only actions that we have in the part of the, when we see the affected users, you're gonna be able to select one or multiple users and have the action assign users to group. There will be a / bucket that will actually show you these are all the users that you have selected, and these are all the groups that have one of the blocking roles. So it means that adding that user to one of those groups will give them back access to the report. If there are no groups in the system, then we will actually display all the groups that are available in the instance. And it will mean that you're gonna be able to select if in that group you don't only want to add the users, but you also want to add a specific role, a role to the group that will then give access to the report. And as a final thing, well, you have done the remediation for all the reports that are important to you at that moment. Then the security admin can enable the report view ACLs from the report ACLs dashboard. So there is a step 3 that is the finalize changes, where there's going to be a button that is enable report view ACLs. And once that is clicked, the report view ACLs will move from active false to active true, and you will actually have a message underneath the button that it says to you when it was enabled. So let me go into a demo. Okay, I am on the report ACLs dashboards. So the plugin actually will give you access to these menus. So you have ACLs assessment for reports. So this is for the report ACLs ACL dashboard that I'm showing right now. The affected report list, ignore reports or user list in case you don't currently consider to fix those reports and users. You could mark them as ignored. and the report view ACLs list. This one is the list of all the out-of-the-box report view ACLs that we are going to consider. As you can see, some of them are in full state right now, and I have already ran one of the scan. And you can see from the step 1, I have already executed the scan, but I can trigger it again. And you can see the progress. Right now it's demo data, so it's quite fast, but depending of the amount of reports that you have on the instance, it might take way longer. So that's why there was also the button from view partial scan. So the assessment scan can run in the background and you will get the list updated as you go. And then you have some data about how many reports are impacted, the percentage that are affected, and when it was run and when it was finished. And down below here, it's the list of all the impacted reports. So I can open any of these and I will go to the record itself. And there are information about the table. In this case, this is global, so it's actually shared with everyone. So all users will have access. So that means that the impacted users are big. And these are blocked by the tables ACLs and blocked by table ACLs roles. So this, and here is the link to the actual ACLs that are blocking the users to see the report. And this is the current report. I can click on show affected records. And right now I see 5 users. And then what we can do is that we can select one or multiples and, for example, assign to group. And then you're going to have this slash bucket with all the users that were already selected. And these are the groups that right now have one of the blocking roles already in the group. So it means that if I say that Jimmy and Jewel will gonna be part of the field services, then they're gonna also get the roles from the field services group that are gonna give them access to the report, because those groups will probably have one ITIL or SN incident raid that are one of the roles that are blocked. And
hey, Marta, real quick.
Yes.
Question came in that says, does it not capture the data related to customized roles? If we have any, I'm asking this, as you mentioned, it scans only out of the box user roles.
Hi, I'll jump in. Customized roles, they will be captured. Customized ACL, if they are part of the out-of-box ACL, they will be captured. In new ACLs, they will not be captured. So if I added new role to one of those out-of-box ACLs and I ran the scan, and we found out that we need, like the affected users need one of those customized roles, then they will appear there.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Morris.
Great, absolutely. And then after more of these reports are actually fixed, you're gonna see in the finalized changes this enable report view ACL button. And when it's actually clicked, you will have this message. For the properties, let me just show you which are the properties. I add actually, this one was to run the scan based on report execution only. Since it was a demo data, I've actually set this to false, but the default value is actually set to true. And also what I've done a change to only consider the SIS reports that have the table starts with incident. So I was actually going through, so you can put here the query. So I just went to sys report. I've done the list. I've done the queries with the condition builder, and then I've done a copy query and pasted it into the value field. And similar can be done also for the sys user table. And this property, it's the max affected users. So right now as default is set to 5, but it can also be increased. And that's all from my side. I'm not sure if there are questions on this part.
Yeah, so Hatem is answering one via typing, but we'll just go through some of these here. So when the scan runs and it shows the impacted reports, these are already impacted and have to be remediated, or they would be once, let me see that, or they would be once the ACLs are added. I can't figure out if this is a reactive tool or a proactive tool.
This is a proactive tool. So it means that these reports will be impacted once you enable the report view ACLs. So until you click on the button below over here, enable report view ACLs, the reports and the affected users will not be impacted.
Okay, so these are all coming from someone that's named anonymous, so I don't know if it's multiple people or the same one, but when we are selecting a group to add a user, are there any plans to allow us to easily check which roles are associated to the pronounced group before we decide to assign it to one of the users missing those roles?
We don't have this in pipeline for now. In the meanwhile, we just display the groups that have one of the blocking roles without displaying more information about those. Maybe admin need to see those groups outside of the app and then decide which one of those groups matching the best. But also like on the top form, we display like 3 sentences or 3 instructions where they say that it's better to create your own group, adding one of the required roles, and then add the user or the users to this new group rather than adding to an arbitrary group.
Okay. So I don't know if this one was a follow-up to the one that you answered, Marta, or not, but it says, so if a report view ACLs had already been enabled, could I still use this?
Yes, there is no problem on using this. You're gonna see still which are the impacted reports, as long as the report view ACLs is one of the out of the box that we have provided.
Yeah, the app will be like available after activating the ACLs, and also if new out of box ACLs added to the instance after enabling plugin that provide one of those out of box, the button of enabling those ACLs will still be available. And once you click on it, it will activate only those that they are not active. So both run assessment scan and the button of activate ACLs will remain active.
Okay, great. There was one that was actually asked, and Hatem had actually typed the answer to that, and someone said that they can't see once the questions are answered. So the question was, if you only want users, let's say with the SN incident read-only role to view the dashboard report as they were able to previously, how can we still allow that without having to use an idle license? And the answer was, the app doesn't handle licensing. So if one of the required roles has license implications, admins need to consider them before adding those to those roles. And then we had another question that came in. When we ran through our assessment, the reports that users were able to see prior can no longer access the report, as it says they need specific roles, including idle, which we do not want to give them. So this may actually go further with the question that you had answered, Hatem.
Yeah, right. The app is basically displaying like what admins or security admin need to do in order to allow those affected users from seeing the report. And it's up to them to decide whether they want to allow those users or not. And it's up to them to decide or consider whether whether those roles have license implications that they need to consider. The app just like display to them all the information that they need in order to make a decision. And it's up to them to decide how they can move forward. Also, like the app allow them to decide, for example, to ignore users. Like, yeah, I can see those users are affected, but no, I don't want to add for them anything. And then there is an action called ignore also for the affected users, and also on the report level, where admin can say, okay, I don't want to handle those because I'm happy with the situation right now. So just hit the ignore button. Then from next scan onward, those reports or affected users won't appear anymore.
Yeah, as well as most probably also possible to create a new role. I don't think there is any problem on creating new roles, even if it's not connected to the ITIL license, and add that role to the report view ACLs.
Yeah, it's also an option.
So yeah, and as a follow-up, they said, so basically ServiceNow is forcing us to use more ITIL license, which they used to be able to view reports without an ITIL license, which Marty, you may have just answered that with a new role, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Chris, I can see your question, although it's not a question.
Great. So,
and then a follow-up said, sorry, what new role should we provide? And I think that what you were saying is you're talking about creating another role that would give the access that they're looking for, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because like you needed to see it in this way. Everything starts with who the report is shared with. So if we share the report with certain users, and from the other hand, we have report view ACL that restricting viewing like certain tables that our report is based on one of those tables, then we need that role that's specified in report view ACL to be including the roles that the shared user, that missing role should be as part of the user that we share the report to. So you can do exactly as Martha said, where you create a report, new role, and add it to the ACL, and also add it to either to your user with our recommendation to go with ServiceNow recommendation, where we say create a new group, add to that group that new role that also you add to the ACL, and then add the users to that group. And then those users will have the required roles that's also required for the report view ACL.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, Marta, there aren't any questions currently. So if you want to finish up, and then we'll open up the floor and see if there's other questions as well.
Yeah, perfect. So indeed, we have, there are different versions on the store about the ACLs assessment for reports. That's because we wanted to make sure that from the earliest as possible, you could actually use, even if you have not upgraded to the latest family. So the earliest release for this is Quebec patch 8. We are going to have a new version, a new patch version of the ACLs assessment for reports coming out in August, and that will support Rome patch 10 and San Diego patch 5. And then you're going to have these slides available, so also the links to the documentation and the KB article explaining all the steps and the remediation that you could take. And finishing up with if there are more questions.
Sure. Okay, so the presentation and demo portion is complete, and we have 30 minutes left. So if there are more questions that are related to the content that was discussed today, or any other questions, you have a great opportunity with the remaining time that we have and the people that are on the call. So some very knowledgeable people on the panel. So if you have some questions, please feel free to ask. If no one does, then obviously this will be probably one of the quickest ones that we've had, but some tell me someone has a question. So one came in, says, can you demo what role should be provided?
It can be literally any role you will need to create. So if you go to roles, you can create a new role, and that role can be added to any of the report view ACLs that you need to fix. So over here, no, not this one. You can add over here the new role that you have created. And that will actually give access to the users that then have that role. So you can create a group, add that new role to a group, and then add all your users to that group, and they will have the new role.
So basically, I mean, this isn't any different than creating a role. I mean, you just
yes, exactly.
Create a role, add it to a group if you choose to. Take that role, add it to the read ACL or whatnot, wherever you need it, and it's done. So this is a common practice. I don't think that there's anything new that's required for what Marta's been talking about. If you need to create an additional role, you just create it and then add it where you need it. Right, Marta?
Yep.
Okay. And
so for the question about required plugin installations, so this is a store application, so you can find it if you search by ACL's assessment for reports, so you will find it in the store. There is other than reporting that is installed in all the instances. There is no other actual dependency. So that's all.
Is it possible to limit the records for both the report widget and PA widget on the same dashboard using the same? Oh, that's an outside question. Okay, so Tom's got that one. So let me ask real quick. Any other questions related to ACL assessments?
I would like to iterate my answers, my last one regard the role. So I think there are more questions regarding the role. So I don't know who asked, but the question was, if I have SN read role as required to view the report, to who should I add the role in order to allow this user to continue seeing the report? So in such case, you need to add, if you want to add that SN read to the relevant report view ACL that appear as block. So if you add that role SN read as part of the required roles and run the scan again, then the report shouldn't appear as affected and the users will be able to continue viewing the report.
Okay, and Roberta's saying that the assessment is saying they need idle, and we don't want to give that to them or the report table. So is there a mix-up somewhere?
The report, it's not actually saying you need items. The report says, hey, if you want to view the report, you have ITIL, but it's not only like you can add. There are other options that as Marta displayed in one of the pages, like in the PPTs, where you can either add ITIL, yes, as written there because missing, or you can play with the roles that they are related to the report view ACL and add a new role that you create, and then you can bypass the license implication. So far, like on the dashboard, we display the facts. And then from there, admins need to use their experience and decide how they can move forward with those facts. And there are like few options.
follow up on that for me is, so would it be fair to say then that the reason that they're seeing, or that they're seeing the need for ITIL, and I put need in air quotes, is that that's what was required already on that report, but you could change that particular report to add additional roles?
Not on the report view ACL.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So affected users are being extracted from the users that the report shared with, and those that won't be able to see the report anymore if we activate the report view ACL. And then what you see as required roles are the roles that need to give the user based on those ACLs. And of course, you can add more roles to the report view ACL, and then you can bypass the fact, or you can bypass the option of adding ITIL to user, because I can understand ITIL have license application. It can give more like power to the user. But yeah, as I said, it's not any user is going to use this app. It's admin who has security admin. So they should have certain level of knowing the platform and how things work. And then they can decide whether they want to give either role or ignore, or I don't know, add specific role to users, or just add the new role to the report VSL, or even like update the sharing audience for that report.
Okay, great. So, hey, Marta, with you, I'm sorry, your screen being shared. Is it possible that you could show the Store app real quick? A question did come in. It says, okay, Store app is a new term for me related to limited ServiceNow experience, but I'll certainly try to browse through that. So maybe we can just show quickly what that is.
Absolutely. I didn't have the quick link, but we can search for it immediately. Here we go.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And just to confirm, without this app installed, you can see information displayed on reports based on data you should not have read access. If so, is that only true for PA or any reports? I think we're just talking about reports.
Any reports. It's not related only to PA.
Yeah, it's only reports, and it's also without this app doesn't necessarily mean that people are seeing data that they should not have read access. That all depends if you have report view ACLs already enabled or not. It depends from instance to instance, situation to situation, and also like from when you have started using. But this application gives you a way to check what are the currently users that if you need to enable more report view ACLs, then who will be impacted.
We just want to emphasize that the report view ACL is important, that the customers to have them, and I think the ServiceNow has planned to force them to all the customers. So the app came in place in advance in order to allow the customer to see which user is going to be affected and try to remediate it before those ACLs being activated. So it can prevent influx of incidents that the customers will receive from users that no longer will be able to see the report, which is good because the whole idea is to make sure that only people who are supposed to see the report will be able to see it, not only from the report view, but also like on database level, and which coming as part of the report view ACL.
Okay, great. Just waiting here. Okay. Okay, so it looks like we have some other questions coming here. So let's see if we can attack these real quick. Let me share my screen here. Anyone on the panel is more than welcome to answer these. Okay, we have one more here coming on ACLs. Let's get that one first. So, sorry, one more time. If we had reports that users were able to see prior to running the assessment, and now it says blocked by table ACL roles, SN request read admin inventory user idle. How can we get this to work for them?
Yeah, so you need to add one of those blocking roles to the users, and then we'll be able to see it. Now, running the scan will not affect anything right now. But once you click on the activate ACLs, then what the scan shows you will happen. So as we said, like the scan prevent or give you idea what will happen if those report view ACLs that are not active in your instance right now, like what will happen if we activate them. So the scan shows you what you need to do, but if you want to see that effects, you need to activate those ACLs. So yeah, the app will allow customers to activate those ACLs in advance and see like their side effects.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so one of the questions that would come up earlier that I wanted to make sure to talk about was there are a few, depending on your licensing. So like that, and that may be part of the confusion. So if you're licensed, and I think the majority of our licenses are based off of like fulfillers, like like our ITSM Pro, CSM Pro type licenses. So in those situations, like with this security, you need a user with a role, but it doesn't necessarily have to be one of those roles that trigger a license if that's the way you're licensed. In some of like the longer, like kind of more legacy SKUs where it's literally a per user license, like if you're getting charged per rolled user, then yeah, this could end up actually causing you to have to use more seats if you're trying to share the report with a user that doesn't have a role in the system. Your other option may be to publish it to a portal that doesn't require a sign-in, or even make it available to SharePoint with an iframe.
Great, thanks, Josh.
Yeah.
All right. So, and one other, can running the scan be scheduled? Especially if you have thousands of reports and you don't want to take a chance of impacting prod, is that something that can be scheduled, or is it on demand only?
It's on demand, the way that was delivered.
Okay. So Maggie, what I would say, really great idea. Hit up the community and go to the Ideal portal and put that in, and we'll get some eyes around that. And maybe in a future release, that's something that can be done. But currently, as it stands, it is an on-demand thing. All right. So, yep, no problem. Okay. So let's get to these, see what we can do with these two questions here. So, and anybody, again, can answer this if they want to. Is it possible to limit the records for both a report widget and a PA widget on the same dashboard using the same filter? So just kind of a follow-up question for me, are you asking, can you make sure that if, and first of all, you'd have to make sure that a interactive filter acts as a breakdown in order for it to work for the both of them. But are you asking that you want to limit the amount of results on both a report and a widget based off of a result that is selected in a filter? Is that your question? And if anybody else wants to chime in on that, I don't know that I know that there's properties for how many results can be, displayed from results. I just don't know that it can be driven by a result. Now you get always probably do some custom stuff that could maybe do something like this, but I don't know if anybody that's on the panel has ever heard of doing anything like this or even has any ideas around it. And I guess that is what they're looking for. So based on what result was selected in a filter breakdown, so on and so forth, then tell it to only bring back so many results. Anybody? Again, I don't know that I have ever heard of that either. What I would suggest, Anonymous, is that's a really good question for our community, and there may be other customers that have had that same question that maybe has already been answered, or they may have the answer as well, because there's very knowledgeable customers that are out there. I just don't know of anything off the top of my head that would be simplistic enough that you could kind of do it on the fly without there being some customization there that would have to happen.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I steered away from that one, is I wasn't 100% sure what they were asking. Yeah. If you're asking, like, can you use a filter essentially like for both of like a report pie chart and a line graph in PA, or a score in PA, to apply them the same, like Tom said, there is you can apply an interactive filter as a breakdown in certain cases. If you're looking at, like, if you have a list view of report, like of incidents at the bottom, and you're trying to filter that based off of a list, that's kind of a whole different thing. And then the other question is, I am not 100% sure how this all works in the new, dashboard UI builder. So.
Yeah, again, I think that's probably a really good question for the community, and apologize that we couldn't give you the answer we're looking for. I've never had that question asked, and it would take some time rather than trying to do it, off the cuff now. But I think if you could ask the question in the community, it would probably drive some good direction on that.
We definitely are moving towards the same filter and unified filter experience when we are now rebuilding the experiences of dashboards and data visualizations to have a more consistent UX and experience altogether. But don't know if it's possible for the current dashboards.
Yeah, and I did think about that, knowing what is in the future. But even still, with that, I don't know that it in its current state, or however it's going to be released, you can decide or limit results, even though it's the potential same filter, though, right, Marta?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so Chris has a question here. So I have a widget question. I have a widget that is using a time series of by-month average, and the widget is set to show monthly data from 1/1 to 12/31. Usually this leaves the future months visible but empty, but on this one, it only shows the months with data, no future months. Is that a limitation of such a time series? Can I change it? I know showing empty months is unusual, but there is a reason. Sigh.
We usually have especially if it's PA, we have average the plus, the one that have the plus at the end. And those ones show also the not yet ended or finished months.
But it doesn't show it empty though, right? Doesn't it? It doesn't average for those.
Yeah. So yes. Yeah. If it doesn't it's not empty at that point. So it's like, if it's just by average, then it should cut even the visualization. So like the data that you see, you should not see, for example, July in this case, because July is still in progress. But then if you use the time series that at the end have the plus sign, then you will also get the data from July. And then you will not see empty anymore, the chart for July.
And it sounds like Chris is saying that they would like to see that, because I want to say, instead of just through July, I want to see the empty months of August, September, October, November.
So all I think the only trick to see it's probably triggering the forecast.
That's all I can think of as well, because I think for PA, there has to be a score in the scores table,
right,
for it to be able to extend. So I'm interested in the scenario where you are seeing those extra empty months, because I don't think that's normal.
It's almost like a display thing more than just a results thing. It's like recognizing that I've selected, January 1st through December 1st. And even though there's no data, I still want think about from a legend perspective, right? I still want to see the months in the year, even though that I have no data. And I think that that's what he's trying to accomplish, just to see the month names. So I think it's more a display thing than actual result driven. It just kind of just knows from whatever time frame you put in there that I'm going to still give you at least the names of those months, knowing that they're still empty.
Yeah. And to kind of expand and go forward from what Dan said, it tries to show whatever it has a score for, right? So you can force it by going into those months in your score sheet and putting in zeros.
Yep.
But like I've had a conversation with a customer before where I'm trying to explain that, like, when you see a zero, it should typically mean that there was a measured zero, not just an absence of data. And so if you need, like, if there's no other way, then you can basically trick it into showing those months by adding zeros potentially. But at the same time, it's a little misleading because it's like, I don't know. There's a difference between like having zero errors and then having an absence of errors. That means that you haven't counted yet, right?
Yeah, and you don't want to do any sort of averaging, because now you're increasing the account for the division perspective, and that's going to skew your numbers. So if you understand what you're doing, like Josh said, when you go in there and put zeros, but let's say, for example, you did the average plus, then understand that what you're going to be displaying is not going to be accurate, because now you're taking, rather than dividing by 6, or 7, since we're in July, you'd be dividing by 12 because you have 12 months of results, even though it's just a zero. So that's going to skew stuff for you. Just tread lightly on that.
Yeah, and 6 of them are now 0. So
right. So what used to be a really good score of 95, now you just, we all remember being in school. So,
yeah, the trending and forecasting won't work anymore.
Yeah. So Chris, I think even with your question, I think it's another great question to put into the community. There may be somebody else that's already done that. But yeah, I like your response there, Chris. Thanks, y'all. But I'm not messing with the score sheets. Good answer. I think that's a wise choice there. But ask that question in the community as well. Maybe somebody out there has figured out a means of doing something like that in order to show what you're trying to look for. So awesome. I'll look for that question as well. I want to see if anybody does answer that. So okay. We've got about 6 minutes left, so I don't see any other questions. So we'll kind of wrap things up. Marta, thank you again. Really good information. And, now this is going to be a great resource for us to share with other people that have this question in the community. So I really appreciate your help. And also, Hatem, I appreciate you joining as well and jumping in where you needed to. And of course, all the other panelists as well. So real quick, just kind of go over some logistical things here at the end. There we go. All right. So again, we just talked about the community. So make sure that you're checking it out. Go here and ask the questions. Also, you can get a lot of other great information. This will be out in the community later on this evening or this afternoon, and also out on YouTube. You'll have the links for all of that stuff inside of the community event. Make sure that you're utilizing Now Learning. There's always new stuff that's coming out, that's out there. Type in analytics for everything that's related to analytics to help you get there quicker. And the PA Advanced course, as we've been talking about, is now on demand. It's not classroom required anymore. So you can do that now. And always be aware that there's other really great platform or academies that are out there. Platform Academy, Virtual Agent, Process Optimization, which we had a call 2 weeks ago that talked about this. Now there is an actual community that talks about all these things. So that's great. And also mobile apps. So make sure that you're checking those out. And thank you, as usual. We always appreciate everyone attending and being interactive with us. And once again, thank you to Marta for her time for doing the presentation and demo, and also Hatem for being here and all the other panelists. So have a great day. We'll see you in 2 weeks.